Hello. Today is a fourth line day. We are in gate 62, the gate of details, and line 4 is called Asceticism. Did you get that? It's called Asceticism. This is upper trigram, and it's fourth line. So this is the line of externalization, of being fixed, and it's the beginning of the transpersonal process, which means that the 62-4 is well aware of the fact that there is an opinion that is coming at it from the 17th hexagram. It knows that there is an organized concept that it has to deal with and that it has to bring its detail to. It's not like the first three lines. It's not simply caught up in its own process of providing detail, but there is a recognition that the detail has to do with opinion. It has to do with something that is coming from the outside. The first line always represents the foundation. So when you're dealing with detail, the first line is very important because it establishes the groundwork, the framework upon which any formula can be built. When you get to the fourth line, you get to the ability to project it out into the world. It's the externalization of that basic formula. But because there is a limitation in this, because the fourth line is transpersonal, it recognizes the difficulty that's inherent. It's a kind of a genetic recognition that there is a limitation, that it's not always easy to externalize. And it recognizes the difficulty of how long it can take to get the detail right. So this line is called, I'm going to try and say it again, this line is called asceticism. In the exaltation, we have the perfected ascetic withdrawal in the pursuit of harmony and simplicity, where outside dangers do not exist, and there is time to pursue inner meaning in detail. Detail that can only be expressed after periods of isolation and reflection. It's interesting to note that the first thing that happens when detail is transpersonal is that there's a restriction on how much detail you can give out and when. So one of the things that you discover is that the lower trigram, they express themselves more easily than the upper trigrams. Often this is the case. They're maybe not as clear, but it is, they're a bit more, and it comes out in a timing that isn't their own because they're just not so aware of such things. They don't know that there is a gate on the other side. And then the moment you get to the other side, you get up to the fourth line and you cross that divide between the lower and upper trigrams, then you have to be able to work out the details. This is not just about saying to people, oh, blah, 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 blah. This is the fourth line saying, oh, hold on a minute. If I'm responsible for externalizing detail to the other, then I'd better be clear about what that detail actually is. This is a perfected ascetic withdrawal. In the detriment, we have the urge to take action against established values that, when restrained by circumstances, leads to withdrawal that waits for opportunity. Where the detail is organized, isolation as a strategy waiting for the right opportunity for expression. This is really about the nature of all fourth lines. Remember, they're the opportunist, and there's a sweetness and a sourness to the opportunist. So what is the sweetness and the sourness? Well, the sweetness is that the opportunist always gets their opportunity. It might not be in their own timing, but they always get it. The sour is that the opportunist has to wait with what it has, whether that's an old lover, an old job, an old friend, an old house, until that moment when it can make the leap and take the opportunity of a new friend, a new job, a new lover, a new house. That's the fourth line, sweet and sour. So this ascetic withdrawal is about opportunity. You withdraw to do your detailed work, and then you wait for the opportunity. In the exalted, the opportunity is a selection, and in the detriment, the opportunity is simply a strategy. withdrawing and waiting for that right moment to be able to get across the detail. The grounding of the 61 line 4 is called research. If we go back to the exaltation for a moment of the 62-4, we had time to pursue inner meaning in detail. Detail that can only be expressed after periods of isolation and reflection. Well, that sounds a lot like research, doesn't it? So the 61-4, it brings the energy of research to the process of reflection of the 62-4. And it may well be an inner research. It may not necessarily even look like research, but if the cap fits and all that. So Mercury goes into gate 4 at 3:14 tomorrow morning. This is youthful folly, the gate of youthful folly, the gate of formalizations. It's a logical gate in the ajna with a great need to understand things, to have answers to the doubts and questions of the collective, coming up with concepts that may or may not have validity. They will all need to be tested out. This gate is in the same stream as our sun in gate 62, where we find the expression of logical formulas. Jupiter. Jupiter is a massive planet, which, in astronomical and physical terms, exerts great influence in our solar system. It represents the law and the underlying principles that create and reinforce and uphold the law. It symbolizes the expansion of consciousness, and it broadens our perspectives so that we can understand our relationship to the whole. It is an extremely benevolent force, and it can lead to growth if we observe the ethics and morals that are intrinsic to our process. Check out where Jupiter lives in your chart and get a feel for the laws that will lead to your growth. Jupiter is on the move today. It transits into gate 35 at 3:18. So it's actually tomorrow morning. Similar sort of time to Mercury. 3:18 tomorrow morning. It's the gate of progress, the gate of change. And by design, progress cannot exist in a vacuum and is dependent on interaction. This gate is always ready to engage in a new experience without thinking of the consequences. This is a throat gate. It's in collective circuitry. It's on the sensing side, and it's a manifestor gate. There can be a deep curiosity here, a desire for change that is driven by a need to experience the depth of feeling. There can also be a boredom here when a new experience doesn't arrive, when our mind wants that new experience. And that can lead to leaping into new experiences without using strategy and authority, and the inevitable repercussions that come from that. If experiences are entered into correctly, then life's many-faceted adventure will bring much wisdom. And Jupiter stays in gate 35 for a month, just a shade, a few hours over a month, I think. So the moon is still in gate 44, which is the last of its splenic gates for this lunar cycle. And then at 18:08, it moves into gate 1. This is the creative, the gate of self-expression, a gate in the G center. This is creation as a primal force, the energy potential to manifest inspiration without limitation. It's the drive to express oneself in a unique and creative way, with the ability to focus on the creative process without being concerned about outside opinion. And there is a dominant theme here of a deep need to express unique and authentic individuality, rooted in one's own direction and unhindered by the established rules of the collective. It's making a channel with Uranus in gate 8. So Uranus in our chart, it describes where we need to follow our own track, where we can express ourselves in unique and different ways. So it's a great match for gate 1. Uranus breaks up the old order. One's limitations need to be transcended so that the new can emerge. This is often precipitated by some instability and chaos. And then the new form can come from that. When you find Uranus in any gate, it denotes an area where you are subject to possibly sudden and unexpected experiences, typical of this Uranian kind of dynamic, which wants to break with the old forms. And this often happens around midlife when people have their a Uranus opposition. And then there's a renewal afterwards in the second half of life. So the channel between the two is called inspiration, and it's the design of a creative role model. It's here to be completely different from everyone else. And it may need some courage to stand out from the crowd. I mean, you just have to be yourself, that's all. How hard can that be in this world of homogenization? There's a natural creative ability in this channel, and the ability to express it as well, because we've got a throat gate here. So it can inspire others and it can empower them too. It's a creativity that can be so unusual and so individual that they can end up being a role model, inspiring others to be equally bold, being uniquely themselves, expressing their unique direction. This is a channel that can be, it can take criticism really badly, because it is that creative identity, gate 1 leading into the center of identity. So any criticism here can be taken really personally as a reflection upon the identity. And the moon then goes into gate 43 at 5:06 tomorrow morning, the gate of breakthrough, the Ajna gate of insight. And it's where, for achievement to be maintained, a new order must be fairly established. This is a unique perception that is the result of a sudden insight. There's a constant process of structuring these insights so that they can be formulated as concepts that bring a radically new knowledge into the world. Works on a pulse. Individuality all works on that pulse energy. It's there, then it's not. It's there, it's not. It's not. The pulse, the pulse, the pulse. In its own timing as well. It's nothing to do with the mind's timing. This is completely individual. If there's no gate 23 bringing this energy down into the throat, there may be some difficulty in making their unique insights understandable. And it's a projector gate, so it needs recognition and invitation. So that is our transit for today. I will be back with the 62.5 tomorrow. So until then, take it easy, go gently, and I will see you tomorrow. Bye-bye for now.